What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another great episode and great, amazing guest for you digital agency owners who want to grow and scale their digital agency faster. Today, we're going to talk about breaking through that glass ceiling. A lot of you are probably feel that you're in no man's land. Maybe you've wanted to quit several times and then you'll get some momentum and then you'll go back down and go back up and go back down. How can you get through kind of the ups and downs a little bit quicker? So let's go ahead and get in the show. Hey, Robert, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, tell us who you are and what do you do?
All right. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of IronPlane. Interestingly, it's an e-commerce website development agency. But my role isn't, I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. I kind of fell into this from a passion in e-commerce. It was 1998, Jason, and I was in Russia and I found this chess set that was a beautiful chess set. And I was tinkering around with this whole thing called e-commerce, and I built this HTML site and threw it up there, wired in PayPal, and son of a gun, if a couple weeks later, this ski slope in Vancouver bought it sight unseen for, I don't know, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. I can't remember exactly. And I'm like, oh, there's something to this e-commerce thing. And so I started buying and selling things and getting products sent from Bali to my wife's garage in Syracuse and all this good stuff. And over the course of several years, we started to get asked to build sites, either our vendors or our partners or, clients even at that point from another side of our business say, hey, could you do that same thing for us? And we fell into this and started building it and realized we liked it and we're good at it. And step by step, we started to build this relationship with our clients in such a way that they would stay with us long term. And that allowed us to continue to grow and build out the team. And I brought a different perspective. I was not, as I said, I'm not a coder developer. I was very much from the business side of things. So my perspective was always on, why are you spending money on this? Is it going to drive revenue for you, or, is it going to improve your bottom line? And so that's how we kind of grew. And then by 2012, I sort of looked back and go, oh my gosh, we're an agency, almost without realizing it. And then we had to kind of get serious about our brand and who we were, what we stood for.
Let me step back. I wanted to make sure you sold a chess set for $9,000.
Yeah, it was one of these hand carved. It was mammoth ivory, which is not ivory like ivory we think of. It's mammoth bone, right? So it's legal. And this guy Oleg Rikis is just this sculptor of chess sets in Russia, and just phenomenal detail. And we bought it, and so let's see if anybody wants this.
That's awesome. On my honeymoon back in 2005. I'm going to get in trouble if my wife doesn't listen to my stuff. but one of you guys could tell them. We went down to Rio and I got a hand sculpted chess set. I thought it was the coolest thing. And I think we paid like $10 for it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, let's get into
what you sell it for.
No, I still have it. Me and my kids still battle. So awesome. I won't sell it. But let's get into why everybody's here. So you're an accidental agency owner like most. Walk us through kind of how long did it take you to get over the million mark?
Let's think. The years kind of grouped together. I think it was a good 3 or 4 years. I think that was the first big hurdle. At first, I was thinking, oh, this is great. We've got 1 or 2 large clients. It started off very much as 1 or 2 large clients. I was a glorified consultant, really, at that point. It was all me, and then it was me and one other person, and it got to this point, and that was close to $1 million just with a handful. And then when one of these companies, the politics changed there, or the board changed, and they just called one day and said, we're breaking the contract. They're happy with us. We were doing great. But like, we're no longer in e-com, or I can't remember the exact reason, but we're not doing this anymore. So sorry, sue us if you want to. Literally, what are the words? And I was like, this is a big hit. And, I was like, I've got our vacations planned this year. I mean, got everything, and so that was when I looked and said, if we're going to do this and not be mom and pop, and by mom and pop, like relying solely on me and bread and butter on 1 or 2 clients, we've got to institutionalize this a little bit, and we got to start to build a foundation and grow and spread our eggs out a little bit. And so there was a dip, as you talk about, right? And then as we kind of redefined the market we wanted to go after, it then took us probably another 3 years to get past that $1 million mark.
What was the clarity? You talked about kind of redefining the market. So at that time when you had kind of a mom and pop shop, right? Everything's relying on you. Did you find that you don't really have a vision and you were more reactionary, but then if you started bringing in people, you started having to go, here's the direction we're going? Or I don't want to put words in your mouth. So
No, that's a great question. I think we were in the earliest days after we sort of got out of the 2, 3 large client thing, reactionary in that I would take anybody, right? I mean, if a client came in, I mean, it feels so pat right now. We all know you shouldn't do this, right? But when you're sort of staring at bills, you're going, "Wow, am I really going to walk away from this client that I know is going to be driving me nuts all day and night, and I know, my average hourly rate's going to be like 10 cents." You just were too fearful to walk away. Now, part of it is okay. I mean, I think part of it is, you can cut your teeth on these things. You can do a good job and almost treat it like grad school, but you got to know when the moment is to stop doing that, to graduate.
what was your
And
moment? What was your moment?
I think we were up to probably, let's say 10 people. I don't know. Right. Just enough now where I definitely wasn't involved on daily client calls. We had project managers, our devs and good partners. And there was one particular client that we knew from day one was probably not a good fit philosophically. Just the way we like to do business and the way they like to do business just didn't mesh. But it was a good sized project. And it wasn't our technology stack. And there were a lot of pieces about it that should work. It just, you knew it wasn't right philosophically. But I signed the contract anyway. And it proceeded to be nonstop Saturday calls. And one of our early things in this company, when I set it up, I said, look, you want to work with us. Our goal here is that we want you to be stable, secure, scalable. You're going to do things right. We're the foundation. We are not a Friday night, Saturday night emergency. You're calling us because, you've got to change this font tonight kind of idea. Or you've gone in and mucked around with live code. I mean, right. We really try to set that, but this was earlier before we were real strict about this stuff. And I just realized my team was going nuts. I mean, it was Saturdays. They were getting called. I was getting called. I was being yelled at by CEOs and owner of this company that, because they didn't understand what really was going on. They were just hearing from their team. And I basically said, no, we're done. We're done with this. This is not a world that's good for anybody. And we probably could have grown faster. And we'll talk about that in a minute here, because I have made that mistake of allowing ourselves to grow too fast at times. And so I sat down with our internal team. I said, look, I think, this is going to be one of our first clients and hopefully not a pattern that we're going to fire. And that was, I think, the rite of passage. I think that was my first little internal, we're going to structure this the way we think is right for us, knowing that we're going to have to allow ourselves to be a little choosier and pickier about who we work with.
So at that moment, you kind of really kind of defined your criteria for the clients you wanted to work with.
Yeah. And it evolves a little over the years, but yeah, I think that was the start of it. We have on our site, I think it's on our career page, we list our values, our corporate values. And that was important to me early on. I used to think this was a little fluffy, and I wasn't sure, how much I cared about this stuff, but I started to realize over the years, we actually did stand for key principles, and not only for what we expect from our clients, but our vendors, but also who we hire on our team. And so I don't remember how long ago we did this, but it's like, I want this out there. This is what we stand for. This is who we are. And we think this is good. We think this is, we're bringing a solid value to our clients and to our team, but you got to want to fit into that. Otherwise we know already it's not going to work. And so, so that's how we started out.
Yeah, you got to live those values, and how you live those values is they're really kind of your personal values.
When you're this size, they are. Yeah.
Right. And then you find people that believe in those. It's kind of, I remember, the great talk on YouTube about Simon Sinek, and he talks about Martin Luther King. He's like, look, he got all these people together, in Washington without social media, all this, and not because they liked him, but they believed in the same thing. and that's the same thing within the company. And
Yes.
it takes us a while to figure that out. I remember the first people I interviewed in the 90s. I interviewed them at a Slosky's Deli.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
remember going in there and I was just pitching them so hard to work for me. I was
Hmm.
so nervous rather than like them pitching me and then realizing, like me evaluating them based on, a criteria. But
Yeah,
it's all a learning process, and I'm constantly learning and making mistakes,
yeah.
even 25 years later.
I, Seriously, I mean, the thing is, I think if you have that framework, it's like having plans and anything else. But if you have that framework and it's on paper, you can deviate from it. But you're deviating. You know when you're making exceptions or when you need to evolve or one thing. But if you don't have it down, if you don't create that list, that whatever it is you're using, right? Then you never have a plan. You never know what you're deviating from or to. And then you can quickly find yourself directionless. And so I think I've come to really believe in it. I come to really hold it dear. I mean, even little things like we had a great client call, a large company. They really wanted to work with us. Again, in our tech stack, I didn't even think Phil's, I mean, the way they would work with us, they all came together, but they sold a product that we can't stand behind. And I mean, it's very few things that I
Was
would
it the
say that,
squatty
we
potty?
will. No, that I would do. Damn squatty potty, I'm all over because that's solid. All right, that's just pure hell. But no, it was in firearms, to tell you the truth, which is prescient given what's going on this week, right? But I've just wherever anybody's politics are, for me, violence and these things in this country, this is just one of those things I can't get behind and help sell. And because I know we can help sell, I mean, I know we're going to help sell and improve things, and so when these kind of things come up, when we walk away from a project now, the whole team knows why and how. They know it was a value judgment, or they know it didn't fit in with our framework. And so it's not just casual, dismissing or we didn't follow through
Yeah.
or something. And so
Now,
I
I
think that
mean,
helps.
I love that. It takes people a while. Like when we're constantly evaluating members of the mastermind to come in, they have to fit a mold that we're looking for. If they don't, I don't care how much money that they have. And,
Right.
like we're going to say, hey, it's just not the right nut fit right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even if they're going to be mad, it's better one person be mad than the whole mastermind or in your case or
Yeah.
anybody's case listening,
Yeah.
the team. Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't want to hurt that. Let's switch focus a little bit and talk about growing too fast.
Okay.
Because when COVID happened, a lot of people were growing really fast. How did you know
Mhm.
you were growing too fast? What gave you the confidence to put the brakes on? And how did that work out for you?
So actually for us, it was pre-COVID. It was the year before COVID where I felt like we're hitting on our marketing. I mean, we're getting tremendous number of leads and a lot of projects coming in. And I think it came down to a couple different things. When when I didn't feel like our team was able to build a solid relationship with clients and really understand their business goals and needs, and beyond us just being a mechanic, beyond us just being a tech agency, which is what we really want to avoid because then we're just a cost center. Okay. And so it's when I noticed that started happening and our churn rate even went up a little higher. I mean, because we have very low churn. I mean,
Like give us an example of a churn rate that you thought was bad.
in that for me, I mean, if we have more than 5% churn a year, I'm really wondering what the heck's going on. Okay. So, but our clients tend to be bigger and they tend to be longer term. They tend to have a vision. Part of that is we've grown into that, right? So this is why I'm a little hesitant to say that. I think if you're dealing with smaller accounts, you're going to naturally have a higher churn rate. That it's easier, it's faster, everything's moving at a little quicker pace. But this felt like even at that moment, we still weren't. I I wouldn't say we were doing as big a projects as we are typically doing now and the complexity, but I still felt like we didn't, when somebody left, for example, or didn't renew a contract, if we didn't know why, I felt that was it. It means we were losing the connection with the client. even with an account manager and a tech PM right. If I couldn't say, well, what happened? Why did they not re-up? Right? Was it internal politics? Was it a change of platform? Was it da, da, da? And if we didn't know the answer, it meant that we've lost that human touch that's I think core in our agency, and that's why we do what we do, or we're able to do what we do. So, and then I looked and said, okay, well, this is just the tip of the iceberg. If that's happening, okay, what's falling through the cracks in terms of quality control? What's falling through the cracks? Are we not delivering in a timely manner? Are our estimates off? Right? And it was not any one thing, but it was a combination of a lot of little cuts. And I said, no, we can't set, our reputation is too important. We're in the smaller niche of the market. We can't screw around with that. And so that's when we sort of put the brakes on and said, okay, we got back to defining again, who's our ideal client and what's the pacing we want to grow. Because I had to make sure, well, now it's even worse, but then it still would take 3 to 4 months to be able to hire, train, and get a dev on a front-facing client. PM's about the same amount of time. So today it's more like 6 months. And so just because the market's so tight. So, you got to be careful, right? You bring on 5 new clients, you got to scramble. At least we do to really make sure we're putting the quality in. So to handle that.
So would you, because it's always like kind of the chicken or the egg, right? When we're talking about this kind of thing, do we get more clients and then we hire, or do we hire and then get more clients? What works out for you, or what?
Crystal ball.
And it's always different for everyone.
Yeah, it's a crystal ball. I think we're a little bit fortunate. Well, good and bad. Our sales cycle is longer now. And so we tend to have a pretty good prediction of what our resource needs are going to be a few months in advance. And so I feel more confident hiring today for a few months down the road. And that has, for the most part, worked well for us. But our client, the way we work our business is that we do, usually it's either a code review or a discovery or some kind of get to know you, which takes 1 to 3 months. And then that's, and by the time that's done, and somewhere in the middle there, we have a good idea of whether it's going to really go to a long-term contract. And our minimum contracts are generally a year plus. And so because of that cycling, and we're even trying to push those longer because of this very reason, that we want to be able to make sure we can always provide the commitments we give clients. So I think in our case, we're hiring in advance, but we have a fairly predictable plan at that point.
Makes sense. Okay. I just know there's a lot of people probably begging me like, ask, because people are always different. But how I always look at it is, if you have a really good lead generation machine that you can just kind of turn a little faster and get more, or slow it up a little bit, and you constantly can kind of jockey that, then you have that confidence. Like you were saying, you have a long sales cycle. It's a whole nother topic we could talk about, how to speed that up, but we won't get into that. But it's literally like, pull that lever and okay, now I feel a little bit more confident about hiring these people, because I felt like if I hired people just out of the blue to kind of build this ultimate team and then bring on clients, well, then that's where I see a lot of agencies bringing on the wrong clients, because they go back to what you said. I got to pay the bills. I got to take on this asshole, this jerk, and they're going to abuse us. And then they're going to abuse us. And then my team's going to leave. And then I'm going to be scrambling. And then it's just the endless cycle that we all get into. And it drives me nuts.
Yeah. Well, and so we've been guilty of that when we do maybe a small new, like we're going to launch a new sub service or whatever, right? Which it's always my fault. I'm always the one that's trying to launch a new service, and my team's like, this is not our core. This is not our,
Well, we see pretty colors. We see pretty colors and we come up with ideas.
Exactly.
And go do it.
Like, oh, shiny. We can do that. And so now it's my vision, right? So, maybe it will come together, right? It's always hindsight's 2020. But more often than not, it's you chase, you hire for, and then, and this is where, you waste your effort. And whereas if you just focused on your core or things that are really close to that, everything's far more predictable. Now, you mentioned lead gen, though. Lead gen, I think, for me, is one of the hardest things to do. I still think to this day, I have complained to my old business partners, my current business partners, and everybody I've ever worked with. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16 years old. I have never found lead gen to be so hard as with agencies. And it's not that you can't just, as I said, right, you can go fast, but to get quality lead gen, true SQLs in my pipeline, and maybe it's just we're in this tweener stage, right, that we talked about. I got 40, 50 folks. When it was 10 to 15, really easy. One new project for, that had a year plus on it, right? Really nice, steady pacing, right? But when you start at this level, you want to have 2 or 3 of those at all given points coming in. I think that's the biggest challenge, at least for me when we're at this size agency.
Are you guys branding the agency or branding individuals?
Well, that's okay. So that's a great. Finally, a year ago, when we looked and said, okay, the agency is starting to have a brand, and that's good, and it stands for something. But I looked and said, I got this incredible team who has been with me forever, and they're smart. I mean, a heck of a lot smarter than I am. Let's start getting them out there. And so we launched Shaping eCommerce with IronPlane, our YouTube and podcast, and mostly, to tell you the truth, as a way to showcase these smart people and let them talk about what they do. I will say that for our, when I have leads come in now, I show them, like, look here, these are the people you're going to work with. This is the real thing. There's no gloss here. I mean, we're not a media company. That has done more for our credibility and authority, I think, than anything else we could have done. It just puts it out there.
I tell people because and that was kind of the thing, is like, you're in no man's land, right? You're well over the million mark, but you're right. Like we're still scrapping.
Well away from that,
right? We're still a long way off from buying an island and going to live on it, right? Which is a lot of people's dreams. So what I would tell you is not just highlight your employees, but like one of the best lead generation sources for agency. I remember I was speaking in New York in front of like maybe 700 agencies. I asked, how many of you have a podcast? I know you said you have a podcast, which is +1. About like 2% stood up, said they had a podcast. I was like, oh my gosh. But think about if you interviewed your perfect clients on your podcast to create amazing content, to build relationships, you'll crush it. Now, you've been doing the podcast for a year. A lot of podcasts, not even a year. Oh yeah. Like it takes years to get momentum. Like I feel like with the Smart Agency Masterclass, we've been doing it for 8 years. We've created a really good moat. There's lots of agency podcasts now, but they're around for maybe a year and a half, and then they go away. But if you just stay consistent, you'll dominate. And think of perfect example of VaynerMedia, right? Like everybody wants to work with them because of Gary. Now Gary's not going to work on their shit. But they all believe in the same thing. So that's the one thing I'll tell you. So in wrapping up, what's the most important thing that you've learned over the years that you would go back and tell yourself in the very beginning?
Stay focused. We got good when we focused on one platform. I said we are not building on these 5 different platforms. We're building on Magento. It took us years to say we're going to allow ourselves to go to BigCommerce. That's only because there's not a good small solution anymore in Magento, right? And so it really focus, and don't be afraid to share that expertise. I mean, get it out there, give it away. I think that I have gotten more traction from talking to my clients and leads and partners, just not even at booths at trade shows, sitting at lunch and just giving answers. And I don't know, it's been a lot more fun too.
I love it. Everybody wants to work with the trusted advisor, and that's how you position yourself. So everyone listening, don't think about if you're giving away your best stuff. If you're giving away your worst shit, that people are going to think it's your best shit. And they're going to think you're an idiot. So you might as well give away your best stuff, because people are freaking lazy and they're going to want you to do it anyway. So, but they want to understand that you understand and they understand the actual process. If you do that, everyone's going to win. No one has to win.
I had a client, Jason, that said, IronPlane will build you the bus, but if you want, they'll also give you the keys and teach you how to drive it. We hate driving it. I remember he's on one of our videos saying that, right? So we always give them back the keys, but we're willing to teach anybody in their team how to drive the bus, but it's 9 out of 10 times nobody wants to. So.
Yeah. Well, who wants to drive a bus unless you paint it black and put red rally, stripes on it like the A-Team? I would do that.
Yeah, I would do that too.
Like if anybody has a bus with the A-Team, and then put a really big motor where you can do a wheelie, I think that would be the coolest vehicle.
I see. Yeah, I like that.
That would be good.
Awesome. Technology out.
Well, what's the agency website people can go and check you guys out?
IronPlane.com. IronPlane.com.
Awesome. Well, everyone go check out their website. Thanks so much, Robert, for coming on the show. It was amazing hearing your story, and hopefully a lot of you guys related to that. And if you guys want to be around other amazing agency owners where we can help you scale faster, make you stay sane when you're going crazy, which always happens, and just have a lot of fun doing it, I'd love to invite all of you, as I'm choking, to go to digitalagencyelite.com. Go check that out. And until next time, have a swank day.